This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Not to allocate any funds to this project. I do not believe that we should help a developer make money. That's not our role, and make it easier for them to make money. And in terms of the traffic, I think we're looking at, the numbers were 4,800 vehicle trips a day. And really, bikes are not going to mitigate that. We live in New England. It's ridiculous to think that there are going to be sufficient enough bikes being ridden in December and January to mitigate 4,800 vehicle trips a day. So I think that's just fantasy to make people feel good, but it's not reality. Okay? We do not have sufficient funds to be able to help somebody make profit. And it's not fair to the CPA, to the people who pay that CPA fund, to agree to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jackie Perreira, 39 Garfield Ave, and also a very long time member of our Easthampton Affordable and Fair Housing Committee. So I'm happy to speak in favor of this allocation to the Tasty Top Sierra Vista project. When I think about them asking for $100,000 to leverage state money, I think it's an excellent use of CPA money. This is what we've been doing for a long time with this committee and this money. The amount they're asking for is actually on par with a lot of other developments that the CPA has funded in the past, and it's been successful in getting state money to projects like this. And we know that that commitment from the city is really going to help the project get the funding at the state level. They want to know that it has municipal support before they want to fund it. When I think about the fact that there's a total of 201 units going in at Sierra Vista, and they're saying 36 just in phase one, and they're thinking about more, that's an amazing boon to our need for affordable housing in this community right now. If you look at the housing production plan, you can see that we do need housing at all different levels, from the lowest at the 30% of affordable median income, area median income, up through all the market rate. You know, we just need housing, period, across this entire region. This is a great project that's going to bring lots of housing to our region. I can't imagine why we would say no to this. This is literally what CPA money is for affordable housing. It's incredibly hard to build affordable housing if you don't have some subsidies from the state, from the local communities. And many of you on this committee, I know, already know that. Let's see, what else did I want to make sure I said? The fact that it's, it's considered permanently deed restricted when it has a 45 or 70 year deed restriction on those affordable units. That's amazing to be able to have that much affordable housing in one project. So great to hear that. Let's see. Oh, to other points. I mean, this project has been permitted already. It's already been through a gajillion processes. So we know it's actually going to happen. So why don't we ensure that it's going to have some affordable housing in it if we're going to, have it go along, and if it's already been permitted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on.
Hi, Patty Gambarini, 20 Sheldon Avenue. I guess I have more questions than anything else. The local commitment that the state looks to from a municipality, I'm wondering if the commitment looks different depending on whether the developer is for-profit, nonprofit, whether there's a difference there. And one thought that popped into my head is the 100,000, if they're looking for multi-year, whether it might be 100,000 over that multi-year period, so that it's right-sized for, this being a for-profit developer. So just some questions and considerations to think about. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Mary Ellen DeLuzio. I live on Mineral Street in Easthampton. And just a few thoughts. $100,000, I would like you not to support that amount for this project. It looks like affordable housing will house maybe 80 people with all the numbers I saw tonight. It seems like an awful lot of money for 80 people, where other projects might be able to help, say, the pickleball expansion, help 16,000 people in town. So I'd just like you to consider where we get the biggest bang for our buck on these kind of investments. Also, as a small business woman who built her business up from the ground up through the last 40 years, all due respect to the developer, I never got a tax break. I only got the privilege of paying taxes. So it's absolutely almost insulting to me that a large commercial developer would get tax breaks, tax from the state, and tax breaks from the town. Also, the state is, I mean, you're not the state, and I understand that, but they're acting as if it's their money. It's not. It's our money. It's our money. We pay taxes already. And now the state's saying, you're not giving enough, even though we gave to their fund. Now we want your town funds too. So I don't want you to think we haven't given. We give a lot. We pay a lot in taxes. And I just don't see why a commercial development project needs these funds. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak to this project? Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, I can't see the names.
I'm online. I also would like to speak.
Great. Actually, I see a hand from, is it Liz?
Yep, me.
And I'm sorry to the folks that are online, if you could just put the Google hand up, and then we'll have a list and we'll go in order there.
It has been up for some time.
Is that great? Is Liz Perry, are you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, all right, go for it.
Hi, I'm Liz Perry. I live in Ward 3 in Easthampton. I'm very much in favor of this project and the allocation of the funds. We obviously need more housing. There's a housing crisis across the country, especially in this area. I personally anticipate seeing even more of a housing crisis as we see people trying to move to our state for better rights for reproductive rights and for trans rights. I think 100,000 is I'm very happy for my taxpayer money to go to that project for not even just affordable housing, just more housing in general. Maybe I was thinking that there could be a caveat, however, that if we give you these 100,000, that the developer agrees that all apartments, regardless of affordable housing or not, be used for residential use, not an Airbnb, and not for a dormitory, for a dance school, et cetera, but just promising that they will be housing that people live in all year round. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty Klein.
Thank you. I've been opposed to this project since the get-go for a variety of reasons, but I just want to point out a couple of things. Conservation Commission has not approved the developer or the development for a bridge that's required over the stream. This has been going on for at least a year. No, it's probably more than 2 years. So no stream crossing to get to that area that they want to build the first phase in. And at the last meeting, there was supposed to have been a consultant chosen, and apparently the developer had a conflict of interest. I may have the facts slightly wrong, but so no consultant was chosen, and now it kind of goes back and they have to pick somebody new out. So it's not all approved yet. It's not ready to go. You know a lot more about CPA than I do, but my understanding is that CPA funding is allowed for profit developers, but preference is given to rehabbing existing housing or previously developed lands. And so we're not talking about that in this case. We do have a project or projects coming online for rehabbing 3 schools. That's an ideal kind of project that should be funded by CPA. We're talking about a wealthy developer here. If you feel compelled, pressured by the city, I get that. That's been going on since the beginning. Give them $10,000 so they can have skin in the game, but they don't get a full skin. So I guess that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I appreciate people are speaking fairly briefly as we got a lot going on. So I encourage everybody to continue in that vein. Kiam JM. Kiam.
Hi there. Kiam Jamrod McQuaid, resident at 8 Jones Drive. I just want to express my support for this project. As many others have said, we are in an affordable housing crisis. We need housing at all levels of the affordability scale. I'm encouraged to hear this developer seems really interested in making as many affordable units as possible. I want to encourage them to keep on with that pattern. Otherwise, I just encourage this committee to support this. Thank you.
Thank you. Patty C.
Hi, thank you. Couple things. The gentleman that spoke on behalf of the developer commented many times that it is a private organization and that they would get their full rent because the renters pay their share and then Section 8 will pay the rest. So I guess I'm not quite sure how or why they need this money. And also, I've been a resident of Easthampton a long time and was part of when the CPA began. And it was my understanding that the CPA was designed to protect open space, help affordable housing for individuals, not businesses, and to also, like Marty said, take existing buildings and develop them. So I went back because I wanted to clarify, and I went back and found the original Community Preservation Committee document. And it says under requirements that the committee may require, let me go back. CPA funds are raised from local and state taxes in order to comply with the anti-aid amendment to the Massachusetts Constitution, which prohibits the use of public funds to private entities. This is a private entity. I'm not even sure why they're applying for this. That's number one. They're private, not public. I thought it was for individuals that wanted to purchase land to create their housing, their affordable housing, which I am for 100%. But this is not an individual. This is a business who wants to make money off the city of Easthampton. Another thing I wanted to talk about was another criteria. It's under general criteria for projects under this. It says, is harmonious in design and scale with the surrounding community, which this development is not, and redevelops or reuses existing buildings or underutilized vacant sites on previously developed land, which this is not. So I am not sure why the CPA is even considering this. Maybe the CPA has changed, but I'm not sure why, as a taxpayer, that they have changed from the existing structure of this fund, which I voted for way back when in 2001, because I agree with it, but I don't like where the CPA is going. So I'm totally against a private developer getting my tax money because they have plenty, trust me, they have plenty of their own money and they're going to make more off us taxpayers. And I'm totally against it. Give this CPA money to individuals who need it. And I'll be with you 110%. Thank you.
Thank you. Liz Perry. Oh, I'm sorry. You're still hand still up. That's been marked. That's it, right? All right. I don't see any other hands. Anybody else to speak to this project? What I'd like, is we're gonna invite you back in December, which is when we're gonna be voting for this. So having heard the public feedback and our questions, to take all that and to be able to address that when you're back here in a month. Does that sound?
That's fine.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I was just looking to redirect some.
And I think everybody here wants that, and I just, because of time and where we're at, I'd love to. So thank you so much for coming tonight. And thank you for those of you who spoke to this project. All right. Skate park. And thank you all for your patience. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm pro skate park and pickleball too.
How's everyone doing tonight?
Right?
Thank you.
I'm Eddie Cooney. I live 116 Pleasant Street, Easthampton.
I'm sorry, hold on 1 second. Sorry, I just want to make sure I want everybody to be able to hear you.
Eddie Cooney. I live at 116 Pleasant Street, Easthampton. I've been part of the skate park committee since we started in 2019. We actually came to the CPA for funds for design back in 2022. We were awarded 42.5, I believe. Just to give you guys an update, we hired Platform Group. It is skate park consultant design firm out of Florida. They've created a ton of skate parks throughout the country, a ton in Colorado. They know what they're doing. We had a preliminary design for right behind 15 Payson, between the security complex and City Hall. That land turned out to not really work out because of restrictions getting too close to the pond, and also the fire department, police department had no interest with it there. We held community meetings, got public input. People were excited about the project, very supportive of it. There's supportive parents of it, business owners, skateboarders. Some of those people are in the audience tonight. Like I said, the initial location didn't work out, so we started exploring several other locations. But all options led back to Millside Park, where the original David McDonald Memorial Skate Park was in 1997. That Millside Park redesign in 2005 had a skate park in it, but it never actually happened. So in May 2022, we presented a preliminary design for a skate park at Millside Park to the commission. That's an overhead view of it right there. So it's to the side of the bandstand, kind of set back. That's where the skate park was for the redesign of Millside Park in 2005. The Parks Department and Commission, they wanted us to explore some other options in Nonotuck Park. We explored Daly Field, Shin Field, and the soccer complex, and none of those locations seemed to work out. So then we went back to the Parks Commission, and we basically told them we've explored all options in the city. And they found Ferry Street behind the Ferry Street Mills. And we started exploring that. There was a bunch of research done. We had a wetland delineation, soil testing, and had preliminary designs for a skate park there. But ultimately, it is too secluded, and the cost to redesign that area was going to be in the high, or $2 million. Some of the issues were there's no emergency access. So if someone gets hurt at a skate park, that creates a huge issue. Parking was an issue. Utilities, lighting, bathrooms, none of that could really work out there. I'm going to turn it over to Noah McManus. He's the owner of Easthampton Skate Club, and he'll talk about the Millside District area. Thank you.
Hi, Noah McManus, 19 Berkeley Street. The vision planning that was done for the Mills District, I believe in 2023 or something like that, There was a lot of activity, a lot of different ideas being thrown out by developers and community members, but almost all, I think all, were in favor of a skate park at Millside specifically. They felt it was it would activate the space in a way that Millside is clearly lacking. I think everyone can agree. Business owners and different stakeholders in the area also agreed pretty adamantly. A lot of the year, Millside didn't have a lot going on, and everyone believed that it would activate the space most of the year, weather permitting, along with local businesses and other things in the area. Weather played quite a large role in myself opening the Easthampton Skate Club. It's in the basement of the Eastworks building. We've been operating for a little over a year now. We are as far as indoor skate parks concerned, very small area, but we have been extremely busy and active and have served well over 500 people coming through our doors already. A lot of those users are under the age of 14. Many are Easthampton residents, or at the very least go to school within town. A lot ranging from the age of like 7 to 12. So the idea is that by the time that they are riding their bikes by themselves from school on the bike path, they'll be able to get right to Millside and go to the skate park and already know what they're doing in there. My users have also been, from New Hampshire, Connecticut, all these other places. They're traveling because there's nowhere else to go to skate indoors. Believe that an outdoor skate park would really accentuate my business in a lot of ways by just bringing more skateboarders to the area. And I believe that I'm helping make sure the community is ready for a skate park when it is built. It's also very important to note that it is a limited size space, limited hours to the public, and it's also a cost to enter. And to have, as much business as I have already, I think proves a pretty large point that a public free skate park would have users more, you know what I mean? So that is a big pull. I think we'd be getting way more diverse set of people being able to come and use Millside without a barrier to entry such as cost or limited hours. In September 24, Platform Group gave a presentation to the Parks and Rec Commission. It's also been provided to you all in a packet from Jeff Bagg. I recommend checking that out. It has a lot of really amazing points to it, as well as the actual design of the skate park itself. One of the things that they really highlighted was that a all-wheels park, as they're colloquially called these days, provides space for 6, 7 different active hobbies, rather than a basketball courts for basketball, tennis courts for tennis, so on and so on. Easthampton serves really none of those populations currently. Most of the skateboarders around town end up using the parking lot behind Eastworks or something, or in the Mill District, and nobody wants that. Nobody likes that, business owners or people driving through included. The skate park at Millside would be connected to the Northampton skate park on the bike path. It is just makes all the sense in the world. We are extremely excited that we have finally gotten to the point where Millside was approved, and we were able to take these next steps and be able to tell the community where the skate park is going to be, show them the design and so forth, and look for funding. And to get into funding a little bit more, I want to pass it off to Jeff Beck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jeff Bagg. I live at 49 Taft Ave in Easthampton. And just a quick disclosure that I was formerly the planning director, but I left that position in March. So I'm just here as a resident, volunteering to help the skate park committee kind of get to this final hurdle. Just quickly, the picture on the screen is kind of a perspective view of the park, kind of as Noah and Eddie said, it's next to the band shell and behind the basketball court. But what we wanted to talk about was the cost is estimated right now to be $750,000. So it's kind of a big number. And what, the state has available through a program called the Park Grant Program is grants that are up to $500,000. And so that's the idea, that the city would be pursuing a $500,000 grant. And then, part of the next slide shows the breakdown of what we're asking. Actually, this is currently an update. What we're going to be doing is coming back in the next quarterly round to the CPA with a request of $150,000, and that provides the city's share of the park grant, and it kind of rounds out most of the funding that's required for the skate park. The committee is a really committed group. They've been at this since 2019. They've had a couple fundraisers, and without kind of approval of the location and without kind of taking the step towards funding, that fundraising, effort has kind of stalled out. There's a commitment to continue that and raise as much as possible and pursue some other opportunities. There's one in particular, Tony Hawk Foundation. What they do is they fund, like $10,000 or $25,000 grants so that they can spread themselves all across the country. So it's not a huge funding source, but it is something that the committee would go after. Applying for a park grant, would require this kind of CPA commitment, similar to the other discussions. It's the city's share, and that would allow the city to apply in July 2025 for a park grant. And then the way that grant is structured is the first year is for design. So there would be a stage of doing some land survey work and then preparing construction drawings so that the project could be put out to bid. And then the second year is when it actually gets constructed. And so the best case scenario right now would be, if everything moves forward, would be, a skate park opening in the spring of 2027. And I think the committee was just asked to kind of give an update of the project and just a preview that the committee wants to come back in January and have a discussion about the funding. And there was a note, that, depending on the CPA's budget, whether there's an opportunity to allocate some money from this year and some from next year. I heard that, there might be some concern with that. So if there's any way to fund it fully, that'd be ideal. I think the secondary option would be to spread it out over 2 years to give the CPA some space on the budget this year. And if the committee would indulge, we brought 3 people, just kind of represent parents of school-age children in Easthampton. I don't know if anyone want to speak, but if you would indulge with 3 people potentially speaking after me.
What I'd like, because I want to hear from parents or other folks that are invested in this project as well, but just because of time, I'd like to have, if there's questions for you while you're up there about because is the other pillars speaking, I assume, are just the voice support for this project? I think just so we can open up the committee as far as questions about the project first. Anybody have?
So are they not coming back in January to present? So isn't that kind of?
Right.
I guess my question is, what's the deal with the $26,000 that's still allocated for skate park design that's been unspent, and how that would be utilized in this budget?
Yeah, great question. So through the process, it took a lot longer than you would have imagined. So we, as a group, renegotiated the contract with the designer. And so we put a stop on the project while the Ferry Street parcel was being explored so it was 12 months. And the designer agreed to redo the contract. So we have a contract now with them for $13,000 to finish this stage. They've been working on this for several months. So 13,000 of that will go to the designer. And then what they are asking for as kind of the next step for the design is some due diligence. So geotech work. So we are working through the planning department to have a consultant explore the underground soil conditions, and that's estimated to cost $10,000. And so that would leave 3. And if that gets us to where we need to be, we would talk about returning that to CPA, although we're coming back for more, but that leaves $3,000 left in that account after we're done kind of with this phase of design.
So my question is, because I know too much, do you want to do geotech before you want to actually have them finalize the design? Don't you need that information to finalize your design, or no?
We are going to pursue the geotech, and then we're going to have the preliminary design set, which was suitable for the grant. And then, the real intensive design work, construction drawings and that sort of stuff would come and be funded through the park grant. So they're just trying to have enough facts to know that the design will work. And so all indications are that it will, but they wanted to have the geotech, and this was a good time to do it with the funds that were available. Hopefully that answered your question.
More questions? Just one question I have, and this might be for Noah. Where is he? When you talked about place, actually just because it'll get picked up. When you talk about skate park in Northampton being connected by the bike path, one thing I think about is just sort of, if you can just where are opportunities to skate for people that want to skate in Easthampton? Is like,
Nowhere.
okay, and then
Have you been
beyond,
down to have you been down to the ponds where the stairs are?
yeah. So, and then in the greater area, there's a skate park in Northampton.
Yeah, so
But I just want to get the general sense, like, if people need to travel to be able to do this, like, what are the options? How far do they need to go? Like,
that's a great question. New England's been lacking for a long time with outdoor skate parks, especially ones that are like good. Agawam, Northampton have been active for, I don't know, about a decade or so. Northampton a little longer. Greenfield just built one last year. That's great. Turner's was maybe 8 years ago as well, Turner's Falls. So right now, Turner's Falls, Greenfield, that zone in the north, those are the skate parks until you cross state lines to Brattleboro. Springfield is breaking ground right now, and they're going to have a very nice one, it's looking like, hopefully by next summer. And Holyoke has one as well. Yep. That's, in need of some repair, but yeah, basically Easthampton has been behind the 8 ball, I think, as far as, outdoor recreation in this sort of capacity.
So Westfield, we just add one.
Westfield is in talks. They're basically at the same phase we are of looking for funding. Their park's going to be a little bit more expensive, but Westfield has one that's dangerous. It's like, you don't want to skate there, especially as a learning skateboarder. And so that's Jeff Burke, who he's been spearheading that initiative and is in the funding phase at Westfield as well.
Given that this project, first of all, I really appreciate the skate park coming to the CPA, knowing that we're looking at different things in the budget even before you're applying, to give us a heads up about money that you will be asking for in the future. Or anybody out there listening to this, out in the greater Easthampton community, we want to encourage you to do that even before you're ready to apply, if you know you're going to be asking, so we can take that into consideration in future funding agreements. Given that you're not applying until, we're going to talk to you again, January. I don't think there's anything else from the committee right now. If the other people that are here for the skate park, if you want to just say something real quick, knowing that you're probably going to come back, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll be quick. My name is Joe Andrioli. I live at 29 Zabeck Drive. So it sounds like a lot of money, right? But skateboarding is huge. You just might not see it. You're asking, like, where is skateboarding? Where do you see it? Unfortunately, without a good spot to skate, they're parking lots, or they're behind a building, or some other weird spot. And what the city needs is a public unified spot where kids can go. I've got a 10-year-old in Mountain View, and there's so many skateboarders that are in that school that you never see or know about. And what we're building, and it's a lot of money, but you're investing in the future. And think about how much money you're spending on other sports. And this is a sports in the Olympics. You just aren't seeing it in your backyard because you haven't built the thing where you can see it. And you're building this for the kids, for the future. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't think I was going to be speaking tonight, but I just figured I should come up and let you know that I have a 9-year-old in Hilltown.
Can you say your name, by the way?
Dave Dion, Florence Road. I have a 9-year-old in Hilltown, goes skating every week, skates about 2 hours in the driveway. I'd like to get him out of the driveway and into a skate park. So I'll have something more planned for next time we meet, but just let you know, I'm here.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Somebody raised.
Con.
Hi, my name's Connie Denham. I live in Precinct 4, and just to be fully transparent, I'm also the city councilor. I just wanted to express my support for the skate park. As was just alluded to, I think that we have a lot of organized sport for our young people in this community. And this is actually an opportunity that provides for kind of individual engagement, as well as opportunities for young people to connect with other young people, adults who are not participating in organized sport. So there's great opportunity for connection, mentoring, et cetera. And I think that we have a real need for activities for our neurodivergent youth. And I think that this creates a great opportunity for students who struggle with large groups, et cetera. It's a good time for or a good opportunity for them to make individual connections with other young people, as well as finding an activity that they can participate in to be healthy and be out and about and enjoy the community. So I just want to express my support for this project.
Thank you. Kayam.
Hi there again. I'm Jeremiah McQuaid, a resident in Precinct 5. I just want to express my support for this project. I think a lot of people know, like, we're facing a crisis of connection in our society. And I think that this is a great example of a public space that will be open to everyone and provide a great opportunity for people to connect and build community. So just want to express my enthusiastic support. Thank you.
Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, skate park folks. We look forward to receiving your application in the new year.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. That was new business. On to continued business. Pickleball. And before we begin, just to catch everybody here up to speed, pickleball was presented to this committee in the last meeting. What I'd really like to, and so in that last meeting, we made folks aware that we're trying to operate on a quarterly cycle here where, because of all the competing projects, and we're really, we need to weigh things against other projects, that our goal was to hear of different applications and vote on them quarterly. That was said at the last meeting. What we really want to focus on here is sort of what happened between now and then, to understand that and to understand the impact of waiting to vote on this until like now, as opposed to voting in December. And part of that is because we had the opportunity to ask a lot of questions about pickleball, and I want to give people a chance to speak about their enthusiasm for pickleball too. I want to, if we can keep it focused to that question first, that would be great.
You're covering that part. Oh, right. No, you go ahead. Well, I'm the co-applicant. Let's stand up.
Yeah, come on up and tell us who you are.
So I'm Carolyn Anderson. I live at 29 Bayberry, and I am a Parks and Rec Commissioner and also the co-applicant on the application for the grant submitted and presented last month. And I think the thing that I felt at the time, this is on me, I have a lot of responsibility. I got involved in pickleball about 1.5 years ago, and working with some really dedicated volunteers, we had sort of approached the mayor. We approached Parks and Rec. I wasn't involved in that conversation, but I was with the mayor. And I think that the group of people moved forward with a really great vision and an idea that we were doing this in the right way. And Scott, what you just said makes total sense in hindsight right now, that if I were to do this again as a co-applicant, I would have come to in those very beginning conversations, because what happened instead is there was a group of dedicated volunteers, a really engaged community, raised a lot of money. It's already sitting in an account with the city, and we're stalled. And so I had sent a letter asking you to consider voting on this early. The project would have, I believe, been applied for early, but there were issues with the committee not meeting. There were a lot of barriers. And as someone that I spoke to off the record said, this project has been sort of a victim of unintended circumstances. And there are a lot of just unintended negative consequences to delaying the project. The park has a window when it's busy, and not moving forward on this and getting this construction started soon in the winter, getting the bids out, getting ready to break ground, it's going to impact the parks. Well, you're going to speak to this part, right? Sure. Okay. I'm going to pass the Right now, I'm going to pass the mic to Sarah, who's one of the 4 people who really spearheaded this fundraising effort, which raised $40,000. So
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Sarah Schmidt. I live at 11 Water Street, and I'm one of the volunteers for the Easthampton Pickleball Fundraising Committee, which was a dedicated and is a dedicated group of volunteers that raised $38,000. But we raised that with 200 donations from community members, and 16,000 of that came from businesses. And if you want to think about the enthusiasm for the sport, I mean, so this is just people that came to a city meeting, but imagine all the people that couldn't make it. So the benefits of pickleball are clear, and they're intergenerational, and it's all about social connection and health and wellness and being together. And I invite the committee to consider voting on this today, because we want to get these courts open. We want to allow the community to use these facilities for the ways that they're intended to be used. And it's just, I think there's an expectation, like all the donors and all the businesses are like eager to have this, come to fruition. So I, with all of my heart, invite you to consider voting on it today and in partnership with us making this happen.
Hi, I'm Drea Marks from 2 South Hampshire Street. I just wanted to reiterate what both Carolyn and Sarah have said, and insofar as time is of the essence, that we've already begun the project. Funds have been spent to create a project design, and to keep the construction on schedule, we do need your approval before December. Site preparation is slated for late winter 2025, with construction expected to take 3 months to align with the spring park season. Delaying the vote could push completion into summer, disrupting existing programs and increase costs due to rising construction prices. So we've done our part. We've raised the funds. We're really looking to CPA now for timely approval in moving forward, and we're very grateful for your dedication to supporting Easthampton's growth and vitality by voting in favor of this project. Thank you.
I just want to say something. How many people are here when we did pickleball like a few years ago? I'm just curious if people that are here for this. So thank you for coming back, first of all. Just to set context here, so you understand where this committee's at, because I'm guessing that many people that the last time you were here was pickleball, back a few years ago. The reason we are more that this committee has gone to a quarterly approval cycle is out of a significantly different fiscal situation than we were a few years ago. Everything that comes to the CPA, I shouldn't say that. Many things that come to the CPA are worthy projects. It's one of the nice things about being on this committee, right? We got a lot of good projects here. And so it's things that what we're looking at, this discussion right now, what I think we're trying to understand is timing issues, because our goal is to be able to, on a quarterly cycle, which is what we had laid out, to be able to do the best thing for the city based on a limited supply of dollars. So we're looking at things in comparison to each other. People that were here at pickleball a few years ago, we had a much bigger pot, and so it wasn't as much of a discussion in that way. Just want to set that context. So the pushback is the inquiry is not really, for me, first about the merits of pickleball. It's about understanding the timing. That's where I'm trying to, because we want to be able to have a robust discussion of everything here. But it's real, and it's not about, it really has nothing to do with the desire to do this. It's about understanding the timeline. Okay. So Dre, you talked about this a little bit. Yeah. Can you, can you just lay, so is there, or who would be best to lay out, like,
There was a timeline in the application.
There
Yeah.
is, yeah.
can we focus on, let's focus on that.
So the timeline, if we were to follow that timeline, and we're pushing now, but the goal when I last spoke with John was that we would still try to have this completion by mid-May, may push to mid-June. But Camp Nonotuck starts at the end of June. Camp Nonotuck is one of the, well, let me back up. There's a big question. So right now we have 2 courts in existence. These courts are being proposed to be adjacent to the courts that exist. So there's a lot of questions around how disruptive is the construction project going to be? And that area is right where the soccer complex is. There's a spring soccer league. I've spoken with the EYSA. Kira may jump on the call. It's going to be disruptive potentially to them if we push another couple of months here into spring soccer. The camp would not have access to the existing courts or the new camps or the new courts. And right now on Team Reach, which is the app that the pickleballers use to communicate with each other, there are 612 members of the Easthampton pickleball community. Right now, at any given time, when people are on the courts, 8 people could be playing at one time. But if you, so obviously, like, we're almost behind the 8 ball now anyway with the 4 courts. I think that's probably our maximum. But if you take away those courts for the, it could potentially impact a lot of the season. So now it's just
to clarify, during the construction, the 2 courts will not, the existing courts will not be available?
They may not. They may or may not. It all, you know, it's hard to, because they literally butt up against each other.
Please.
Oh, sorry. Oh, one last piece of context I was going to add is that we developed this plan with John Mason, collaboratively. So another piece of this is his ability to manage the project. And that timeline for him was winter construction in a time where he had time to faithfully oversee this project. And so that's another part of this as well.
So I guess the one question I would have, when we're talking about site work and construction in February, that's a little unusual to me, just from looking at, the typical municipal construction for like an outdoor construction project in mid-February. Like, if there's blizzards, is that going to disrupt this entire thing? Or is there a plan to have this happen, regardless of the weather?
Well, I think that a lot of the work has to be done prior to that. So the bids can't go out, the bid pack can't go out until there's commitment financially from the city. So I think that that's as much as can be laid out ahead. And then the moment and it can start, it starts at that point. So I don't know, John would be the one who probably could speak, and I don't think that he's on the call, to the exact time of the actual construction details, but the lead time leading up to that and coordinating.
I understand that, and I did but I just saw in the document that it said that they were looking at doing site work in mid-February, and I was just curious about how feasible that actually is.
Why can't you go out for bids without having a commitment to finance? It's only a quote. It's not a commitment that you're gonna.
You can't sign a contract till you have funds in place,
But you can go out for bids and say, okay, this is what we're doing, get all that in place.
Again, this is John. I spoke with John after the meeting. So if I back up to the last meeting, I think John and I both were sort of under an assumption that there would be a vote at the October meeting. We were both surprised by that. And that's why we didn't, I'll speak for myself. That's why I didn't respond at the time when you had mentioned you weren't going to vote. I heard you speak at the beginning of the meeting about having a quorum and being happy that you had a quorum. And so in my mind, I thought, I'm learning a lot in this process as both a new commissioner and as a community member. So can you remind me of the question?
I guess the question is that we're confused, is that we don't understand why you can't go out to bid and get the bid packet out, even though the funds aren't 100% committed. You can't sign a contract until the funds are in place, but you can go out to bid.
There's nothing wrong with having someone quote something and then throwing the quote away.
Unless
John,
my
I
memory
spoke with
is
John, and John had said to me that we can't move forward until we have commitment of funds.
So that's.
Is John on the call? Let's see.
No.
I can I just
Yeah,
chime in here.
please.
It is an aggressive timeline, even if everything goes well, because we can pass this, but then this goes to finance committee.
Correct.
Correct.
And then it goes to city council.
It's got to go through three
The
different.
mayor
yeah.
signs it.
Yep.
So I'm looking at this timeline. The timeline's already out the window a little bit in that I don't think you can award it. I mean, I don't know, Tom, you probably know better than I do, like, but even if this is sort of fast track through finance and city council, when would it be?
There's really no way to fast track. We met last night, so the next time that this would get introduced to the finance committee would be in 2 weeks, the first Wednesday in December. You can't generally vote on appropriations the night they're introduced, so it would have to go to finance committee and then come back. So we're talking at December 18th would be the earliest that these funds could be appropriated, even if we did vote tonight.
At council level.
At the council to hold a public hearing, it would not be for nearly 4 weeks, just because of the process there.
You know, and maybe you could go ahead and award a contract by January 6th. But I just want to say that the timing is very tight with this.
Correct. Yes, I think
and so, you know, I think it's challenging to stick. I just want to level set the expectations for the project, given weather and given the multiple steps that need to happen in order for the funds to be released. It's sort of agnostic to whether we vote on it tonight or, but I just wanted to be clear on that piece of information.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting. If someone could clarify for me, are we not thinking about voting on this tonight because we don't have the money, or because we're sticking to the quarterly schedule that we had proposed? Because I do feel, let me, before a couple kudos to the committee. You know, I was involved also the first time this came through, and they were, you know, told to be given a amount of money to raise, which I thought was pretty substantial. And I've been very impressed with the committee who did that. I feel it's sort of like the Wizard of Oz of bring me the, you know, the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West, and you know, and then all of a sudden they bring them the broom, and it's no one's behind the curtain. I do feel that we owe this committee support. Now, if there's not, I don't, do we not have the money? That's one thing. Or are we sticking to a rule? Because if we're sticking to a rule, considering I feel they have done their job and it's now responsibility of the city to do their job, I would like to, someone could just explain that for me.
Sure. So basically, just to recap, in the and I don't think anyone here maybe we should just recognize the fact that we have a room packed with this many people is incredible, right? And this speaks to the enthusiasm of a lot of people that are present, and not here the fact that the amount of money was raised is incredible too. And so really, I just want that acknowledged. That what happened, Joe, at the last meeting, it was actually 2 meetings ago. The committee said, look, we have a much more limited budget than we did in the past. We're going to be getting a lot of projects where in the past, we were always basically able to say, you know, we did our due diligence. We were able to say, that sounds good, let's approve it. We always, just so everybody knows, we basically always have done a 2-meeting process where we hear from the applicant, and then the next meeting, they come back and they vote. And all this is done to do the best job we can for the taxpayers' dollars, to do our due diligence, to make sure we're giving the best advice for the, you know, for what we think is the best use of this money for the city. So 2 meetings ago, we said, because we have a limited pot, unlike in before, we're really going to have to compare these projects to each other, because the unfortunate reality is that they are in competition, even though they're all valid and wonderful in many ways. That was 2 meetings ago. We said, because of that, we're going to move to a quarterly process. We're going to hear from applicants for 2 meetings, and then the 3rd meeting, we'll vote. We'll be able to have that meeting as a discussion, be able to talk about the applications in their relative merits. Last meeting, we had a great presentation from Carolyn, from John, Carolyn or Caroline? Carolyn, thank you, Carolyn. We had a great presentation by Carolyn and by John. They were very thorough. Maybe was able to ask a lot of questions, and it was terrific. And we let them know because of what we had agreed the previous meeting, that the time that we will be voting will be to come back for the December meeting, where we will hear, because we're going to hear from other projects in November, and then in December we'll be able to talk through all three of them. And at the time, what we heard from John and Carolyn was, sounds good. And so that's the background.
So it's not like we don't necessarily have the money. We're saying that we're changing, or we did change to look at things quarterly, because I think something you have to consider too is the whole grandfather clause. They were told maybe a year or so ago, that if you bring me the broom or if you raise the amount of money, we can go forward. And now I feel the rules have changed, like, oh, well, I know we told you that, but we're going to make it a quarterly thing. At some point, I think you have to kind of give acknowledgement to what an agreement or verbal agreement was. And I think this group was told, with John involved, if you raise this amount of money, and I think it was a substantial amount of the overall cost, especially when the state board is talking about a lot of money, and I haven't heard an exact amount of money they want to bring to the table. I don't know. I think this because we gave them this amount of money that they should raise and they raised it, then I don't think it's fair to change the rules that, okay, but I'm sorry, now we're making these allotments quarterly.
So,
Matter of fact, I feel strongly enough about it that I would like to make a motion that we vote on this. I'll make a motion. I just don't think it's fair that they, again, raise what they were supposed to do, and we're saying, oh, but we changed the rules. So I don't know if someone else here is going to second it, but I'm going to make a motion that we vote on this tonight for this appropriation.
okay, so just as a point of clarity, I've been on this board for a while, and these rules aren't new. These rules been in effect for multiple years. They were planned, and then we kind of got away from these rules. So that's the one thing. This isn't something that happened brand new. It is something that has probably looked at more being enforced due to the current setup of the financial situation with the CPA. That being said, I think with this committee in particular would have been ready to submit this project. They're a victim of circumstance in some cases. So I know what the concern maybe for this committee, for us, is we got a rule in place. The rule's been in place for 3 months, and we're going to break it already. So the next people, someone's going to come in December, and they're going to say, you gave the pickleball money, right? So what I think in this case, these guys are more of a victim of circumstance, because they would have had this project in probably July, at least, easily, but because of things beyond their control, they weren't able to do that. So they had to get in the soonest time they could get in, which was last month. So maybe that should be, I'm not saying one way or another, I'm not gonna second the motion, but I'm just saying maybe there is a little bit more of a gray area with this project than with other projects. So that I'll shut up.
I just have a question, and if somebody can refresh my memory, who told who what about fundraising a certain dollar amount?
I don't recall that.
Was it the CPA committee that actually said to the organization? I mean, we always say you have to have a match with every applicant that comes off. We want to see some match, whether it's money or in kind or whatever it is. So if somebody could refresh my memory with this.
So I was involved in a conversation with the mayor in June of 2023, in which case she had said, if you raised $20,000, that's a lot of money to show initiative and commitment to the project. Other members of the team had met with the Parks and Rec Commission And do you want us, I wasn't at that meeting, so if one of you wants to speak how that came to pass.
Sure. Yes, so we did attend the Parks and Rec meeting. I think it was in November of 2022. Thank you. And at that time, we proposed the idea of, hey, we really need more courts. There's people waiting all the time, and there's just so many people that want to play. And John Mason and the rest of the Parks Commission stated that if we were to raise $40,000, he would greenlight the project, he would apply for the CPA funds, and that he did not foresee any issues in doing that. And we went back and asked him several times because we're asking businesses for large amounts of money here. And the mayor as well. We had several conversations with the mayor, with some city council members. We felt very strongly that this was supported by the city, and if we knew that it wasn't, we wouldn't have asked all these people for money, you know? So, thanks.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I just want to make sure it wasn't a member of the CPA committee that told you that you needed to raise $40,000. Okay, thank you.
Can I also just note? Yeah, I just want to note that the committee reaffirmed their commitment to the quarterly funding cycle in September, but I have the minutes from January of this year pulled up where the committee formally motioned to formally move back to the quarterly funding cycle in January of 2024.
Thank you.
That's my recollection too. It's much earlier.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Great, thank you for that clarification.
Just for what it's worth, I do also recall having those conversations as early as January, but I also do recall us saying that, you know, if there was certain situations where we needed to make an exception, then, you know, we can make exceptions to it. So I felt we need to decide whether this is one of those, but we always acknowledge this. It was possible that these things might happen.
Great.
I just want to dispel any understanding that there's slow walking going on, or that there's like, this is due to like lack of interest in supporting pickleball. So because I don't know if that's, I kind of got that sense that maybe, you know, this is bureaucracy, is, you know, it is bureaucracy. I'll own that. But you know, to Joe's point, these two things are related. The funding situation that we're in and moving to the quarterly cycle. I mean, it's not, so part of it is adhering to our own rules and part of it is fiscal. And there's no separating those two, honestly. I am, I'm not a hard and fast person when it comes to this. Mr. Councilor Rist, when he was on this committee, very much moved us into a rolling basis, but for years prior to a segment of time, we were on a quarterly basis. So, you know, to your point, Andy, this is not unprecedented. But anyhow, I'm open to being flexible in certain circumstances. I think, Tom, your recollection is accurate that we were moving to a quarterly cycle with an understanding that we have the ability to change that if we feel it's appropriate.
And Jeff, you want to say something real quick?
Go on. Are you still taking public comment?
Well, come on up.
Jeff Bagg, 49 Taft Ave. I wasn't going to speak, but I actually just wanted to offer one more potential reason for the committee to consider some flexibility. I think with every project there are going to be unique situations, and I think the rule is the outer bounds of that, but I think having flexibility is going to be really important in a variety of cases that you might encounter. You know, I can imagine where if someone is pursuing grant funds or something like that, and there's a deadline and you're going to miss the opportunity to leverage the funds, you might want to look at each case by case basis. But what I was really going to say, I think, was something that Carolyn was saying about the city's process. Again, as I am the former planning director, I'm not that. I'm just a resident here. But I do know that the auditor has really strict policies about going out to bid on projects. So the policy may have changed, but in recent past, you cannot go out to bid until the funds are fully allocated. So it's not something where you can just kind of do the spaghetti and see if it sticks. Like the auditor's process is to have funds fully committed in order to go out to bid. So the only reason I think that the committee might want to consider this is that from this meeting, for example, you already played out the timeline for city council. And even the city council vote, so there's still internal process after that before which the funds would be fully available to go out to bid. So if you run out the timeline, kicking it out another month would definitely trip up, the rest of the process. So it's just another potential reason to consider being flexible.
But is this, Jeff, is this a city rule that the city can't go out for a bid unless they have the funding, or?
And my understanding is this is going to be operated through the Parks Department, so it'd be a city bid project. So in my experience was that we were not allowed to go out to bid until the funds. So with the city council vote, even that is not the day you can go out to bid. Okay. There's still internal process to set up an account, put the funds in that account, and then the project's eligible to go out to bid. So there's still some timelines.
All right, thank you. There's a motion on the floor is there any other discussion from the committee and there hasn't been a second yet, but before we ask for a second for Joe's motion, simply about moving forward on this vote tonight?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm okay with what, I'm okay with whatever you guys want to do, but I do feel like I kind of wish I had a little bit more information from the Parks Department about this right now, because we have a timeline that was laid out to us here that, for the reasons that we were talking about and for the reasons that Mr. Bagg just laid out, I don't feel is feasible. And so I do kind of wonder, I just sort of wonder, facing that reality, is it still essential that we vote tonight, or is it at that point, are we sort of at a place where you're going to have to make some adjustments to sort of the development plan? And I'm very happy that these folks are so organized, that they raised so much money, that they did all this stuff. I'm willing to take them at their word that this is the agreements that the conversations they've had with the mayor, with the Parks Department. I simply am, I guess maybe this isn't a productive thought. I'm just saying I kind of wish that there were some folks here who could clarify, given the realities that we're doing, what this actually means for the Parks Department and their construction timeline. So that is certainly my thing.
Thank you.
My question is, what happens if the bids come in high? And there isn't enough money between CPA and the 40,000 then how does that throw off the timeline? It's not for us to figure out, but I'm just putting it out there that if the bids come in high, then the timeline gets thrown off. And it will be up to the parks and the supporters to sort of, figure that out, but just putting that out for reality as one that has put out projects to bid and had funds allocated, and then they come in higher than anticipated. So something to think about, how that may pivot the timeline.
Is there any other thoughts from the committee only on whether to, before we ask for a second for Joe's motion? Joe.
Just to refer to what Jess was saying. I think probably as her works, you can probably say the longer you wait, it's less likely that it's going to be cheaper. So I think the best way to help mitigate those prices going up is to act sooner than later.
Anything else, committee? I just want to say, I really think it's important for us moving forward to stick to a quarterly schedule because of the limited pot. That's it. When I look at the budget now compared to where we were a month ago, as far as our understanding of the available funds that we have, it's greater than it was before. I also look at the projects that we heard tonight, and where we're at in the fiscal year. If we fully funded both those projects and this project, we'd still be only about 50% into that around, right? So what would that be? We're at 717, and we'd say if we were to fully fund those, that would be 250 plus this is 75, correct? 35. So 325, which is under half of the 717. It doesn't seem to me that it would be putting us on a path of not being responsible. And to Joe's point, things are getting more expensive. And truthfully, given this amount of money and that budget, I anticipate that we would vote for this next meeting. And so to me, I want to put it out to anybody that's looking at the CPA. And the last thing, I really appreciate what Andy said, that we weren't able to, because of staffing issues, we weren't able to meet for 3 months. And so I recognize that could have impeded this process too. So for anybody who's considering applying to anything for the CPA moving forward, I want to reaffirm as the chair my commitment to sticking to that process, and say that I want to I'll second. Is there any other discussion on this?
I'll second it.
Great. Andy seconds it. And all in favor of, we're just voting. No, we're not voting for the project yet. We're voting on whether to vote for the project. City government, you gotta love it. All in favor of voting on, using exception and voting on this project tonight, say aye.
Aye.
I just want to can we see hands? I just want to make sure we're, 1, 2, 3. All right, that looks like 8-0. Got it? Great. But you haven't done anything yet. Come on, wait for it. All right, so, all right, so it's 8:30, and I appreciate that you guys have been here for 2 hours, and you're dedicating not only with your money and your time.
They got paddles, don't screw with it.
Yeah, be careful. If we could, people that feel like they want to speak publicly to this, I recognize the amount of people in the room. And if you also agree with the people that are speaking, one thing you can do, I do this, I'm a teacher, you could go like this, and this shows you agree with what they're speaking. So that way, as a committee, we can hear, oh, wow, a lot of people feel that way without every single person going up. Just put it out there, just time-wise, because we really want to hear from you. And, it's late. Anybody who'd like to speak to their feelings about this issue, you're welcome to form a line at the podium.
We've said everything we need to say.
We can hear from a few of you.
Hi, my name is Gabriel Molians. I just want to suggest that I think it's important to prioritize the projects which are giving the most to the community rather than to themselves. And I would also suggest that pickleball and skateboarding both resoundingly fall into the former category. And I think those are tremendously important.
You guys learn. That's good. That's good.
And both outlets for people to find solidarity and community in terms of mental health and recovery. And that is tremendously important for our community. And that should be available and accessible as consistently and as much as possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good evening. My name's Lynn Lepore. I'm a neighborhood pickler. And I wanted to add to the conversation that this fall debuted the first high school pickleball league for Western Massachusetts. And in the next couple of years, they're looking to make it an official sport. And adding the courts would help support our high schoolers, who I enjoyed very much kicking ass on with the courts. Just put that out there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Lynn Troy, Main Street, Easthampton. I was one of the fundraisers for this project, and I had some very generous donors. Ran into one of them last week on the street, and he asked me about the thing's status. And I couldn't tell him anything. And he was quite concerned. And I just want to tell you that you don't want to disappoint these people.
There are donors.
Anyone else? All right. Committee, do we have any other questions about for the applicant about now? Because really we were talking before about the whether but we asked a lot of questions last time about this project. Are there any follow-up questions or additional questions that you didn't ask last time that you feel like you need in order to consider this project?
Sure, I'll just ask a quick question.
Sure.
So total project cost is under 101, 38 has been raised, is that right? So we put that number on the table for the vote is 75. Correct?
Is that correct?
Is that what we're?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why is that not, why is 75 not on that?
It's on the application. It's on the front cover sheet.
But why is that different than the app, than the,
Go down the application. I
Budget.
think that was the construction budget.
oh, okay.
So
I see.
contra-
Yeah. Wait.
So
That's
go
different.
down. So it's the construction budget,
So-
and then the total cost is 84.4, overhead and
Yeah.
profit,
Yeah, yeah.
8,400, contingency, and then a total of 108. Although it's saying here 25.8 towards the project for the Friends of Pickleball, so I assume the remaining money fundraised is being used for ongoing maintenance and that sort of thing, that,
It was used for design. Part of it was already used for design. And then there were fees associated with, when you don't have a nonprofit organization who can fundraise. We actually had to use an organization called Philanthropy.
Players
Thank
Philanthropy.
you. Players Philanthropy,
so you
which we
paid
were
a
advised by
a
the mayor to go in that direction.
correct. Okay.
So am I correct then in assuming that the 25.8 is the only amount from the 38,000 that was raised that will be able to be
I
applied?
believe that there was, this application was from July, and I believe there was an additional $5,000 that's not accounted for here that gets us to the 38.
Right.
That the state, thank you. That one of the banks locally, yes, Easthampton Savings had provided a $5,000 check after this.
Mostly a contextual question, knowing that, costs can go up and so forth. So if we're approving or if we're voting on the $75,000, does that give some flexibility when it comes to the pricing? Are we gonna see money coming back to us if if things are on budget? These are kind of, given where we're at as a city, we don't necessarily want to approve more or have, I want the dollars to be spent wisely. Clearly, they're going to be enthusiastically enjoyed,
And
so.
Parks and Recreation would control the whole project, and I think from the past, the money would be managed in the same way it has in the past.
Thank you.
I feel pretty confident with John's managing.
Correct.
I mean, the other projects, when he gave the update last meeting, he was very clear that there were projects that he's going to be returning money to us. So, yeah, so I have, no concern with that.
Yeah, Derek did say it. John's record for projects is pretty good. He's done a pretty good job. Just try the pool out just in case.
Motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve $75,000 for additional pickleball courts.
Second that.
All right. Oh, you got it. All right. After this is what you can. All in favor of this motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No, there you go. Before you go, I just want you to know, personally, sometimes you could feel like things, in the world are out of your control. And I want you to know that this likely wouldn't have gone this way had this room not been full. And so just coming here and sitting here for 2 hours, you actually really did make a difference in your community. So thank you. All right. Yeah. We have one more piece that we want to do.
Folks, we're still in a meeting,
Sorry,
please.
can we-
Thank you.
That's okay. You're welcome, yeah.
Just please quietly.
Thank you.
All right. Our next meeting is December 19th. I know it's getting close to Christmas. Is that going to be? I don't really want to change it, but I want to not be here. Okay. But Tom, Greg, you think you can be here? You think you'll be here? You think you can be here? We'll keep this. Sorry for drinks. Yeah, that's good. All right, we're still, anything else before we adjourn?
So on the agenda at December's meeting will be voting on Tasty Top.
Yeah, so yes, we'll be voting on Tasty Top and
Probably, I'm speaking about, and updating on Old Town Hall. So you'll get materials about Old Town Hall and ideally presents from Burns. One question, I guess this is a little, I think this could be an announcement. Would you like to invite the mayor to December's meeting to speak about Old Town Hall?
She feels like she needs to be here. I leave that to Burns and the applicant.
so the reason I think Ava's saying this is because the mayor was the one who said,
Well, the mayor was the one who said, can we please have a fresh project funding agreement for the entire amount with an 18-month extension? So the question would be like, does the committee, that project funding agreement is not yet finalized, it's still in draft form. Does the committee want to revisit this aggregate project funding agreement? It's in your packet right now, the draft. With the mayor and Burns present, does the committee want to renegotiate any of the conditions? An attached updated project budget is also found in your packet.
I'm sorry, what's prompting the mayor to bundle what?
So
I've lost the thread.
Yeah.
Totally. So the Old Town Hall has received a number of appropriations from the committee, and they have a number of current project funding agreements detailing different amounts of those. And some of the project funding agreements have overlapping amounts. So it was requested by Burns and the mayor to have to null the previous project funding agreements and have a fresh project funding agreement, a fresh grant contract with the city for the full amount that Easthampton, that the CPA has currently appropriated.
So we're just consolidating.
We're consolidating. Okay. And extending the timeline because there's different project funding agreements with sometimes overlapping amounts had different expiration dates for those agreements.
You talked about having Burns give us an update at the next meeting, so that would be a good.
It was more the question of the mayor. Tom.
If the question is about the mayor, then I feel like actually after tonight's meeting, I think that, yes, I personally would kind of like that because I feel like with this whole thing that went down, I had a bunch of questions for the city and there was not a city official here to weigh in on those. And so I kind of feel like maybe that would be helpful. Just that's, my take.
I agree.
Yes. I guess the other thing I thought when Ava mentioned this to me is that I couldn't remember a precedent of the mayor sort of looking to amend something that the CPA had done, but also it was sort of like typically projects they don't get an extension, they just don't spend them. Like we don't. So it's sort of hypocritical to say like, wait, someone's asking to get an extension where all our other projects sort of we just let go. But because I had never heard that before. I didn't know if the committee felt like we needed to get a better understanding of that process.
I also nicely color coded them. Every project in the red there currently has an expired project funding agreement.
Yeah. So yeah, we need to
just as a note. Yeah.
Thank you. Good job.
I love color coded spreadsheets.
Were you gonna say something about that?
Yeah, it might just be somewhat symbolic, but I think it's a reassurance for a project of the scale, and City Space has been coming to us for a while. Sure. If that's what they want reassurance on a renewed timeline, I think that's a reasonable ask.
Yep.
And the second thing, there was conversation earlier or mention of the anti-aid amendment. I sure want to remind people that it doesn't preclude giving money for public benefit to private organizations. So it was a little bit of, I was just spoken earlier, and I just want to be clear on the anti-aid amendment does exist. It is a real thing, but it doesn't preclude us from awarding money to private companies or, private nonprofits, which, so, but the second part of what she had mentioned was a quote from some, and I missed the source, but I don't know if anybody did, but I would like to kind of
Be able to answer that.
be able to look at the language that she's looking at. I mean, I think it is important for us to adhere to the Community Preservation Act and the anti-aid amendment and be informed on that. So I was there's a little bit of a curveball there when I was just trying to, I didn't want to ask her necessarily, but I did want to know the source of what she was reading from
She said
because
something about the original CPA.
2001.
She was reading it.
So I don't know where she got it.
I think,
Is it on our website? Like, I don't know where it
Well, it could be the
lives.
state,
you can find it. I mean, the original act
Yeah.
that the state passed, the language is readily available. So maybe if that's what she said, then
I don't know. It sounded like she was talking about an
Maybe-
East Hampton one, but
maybe Ava, that's something you could look at in the next
Yeah.
month, just to be able to have some way to address that.
For sure. Well, there was a number of things I think brought up in public comment that I sort of got the sense that the committee was not interested in addressing the inaccuracies as they were spoken to in public comment. But, there's the Community Preservation Coalition has a project reference guide that's really good. Are all committee members familiar with
Yep.
that website?
Yep.
I can also send out this in particular, and that speaks to the anti-aid amendment and the eligibilities of certain projects.
And as a reminder, a private affordable housing developer did receive money, Arch Street Development for 50 Cottage Street. They received $300,000. So this is not the first time we're seeing a
That's
private.
a for-profit.
That's a for-profit, the same individual who won the bid for the schools.
Okay. So, yeah, so this is
So
not,
that's
it's not
not, this
unprecedented.
is not the first time that we've seen a private affordable housing developer come to the committee and receive funds
Mhm.
for affordable housing, although
But
this
I-
was 100% affordable.
But I think it would be good to have something official to be able to say, we appreciate the public comment and we look into it. And this says, like, right here is where it says, this is possible. Like, if there's any way to bring that to that meeting, that would be next.
I also think it's important for the committee to know that in terms of where they're at with Conservation Commission, in terms of which I feel like there were both things said. Do you want to speak to that, Jay?
Oh, yeah, Marty Klein said that, things had not been decided, but at our last meeting, we had picked a peer group for engineering for the projects. And we're just in the process of giving a contract to them, I believe. But,
For peer review?
for peer review, yes.
For what,
Well,
stormwater
for
or?
construction monitoring. So not quite peer review.
Yeah, for the stream crossing and monitoring,
Also somebody to monitor the actual, but so
Yes.
the bridge itself has been permitted.
is permitted. There's a replication area been permitted,
Yeah.
but
Through
someone to
NOI.
monitor that and.
Yeah, I get that, yeah.
So what's
There's such a
important is
big
that they have
project.
a signed order of conditions. They have not yet completed their pre-construction requirements. A signed contract and the money held in escrow for that construction monitor that Jay's describing
Yep.
is the final pre-construction requirement.
Okay,
And we've been hung up there for 7 months.
okay.
So no,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah.
say they are completed with their order of conditions permitting, but they are not necessarily. They will be if the developer chooses to provide the funds to be held in escrow.
Mhm.
We will be there.
Motion to adjourn.
So that was part of the
So
whole
moved.
misdirection that's getting thrown around here a little bit, right?
Yeah, and Conservation Commission is complicated, so it makes sense that we get lost in the sauce here.
well, and some people are clearly looking to put the brakes on the project itself, and
Oh,
that's not really our role. The city, has had ways to open checkpoints. CPA is really not the place to
Right. We're
call
not
off
the,
the
we're not
entire
the gate,
project. We're just voting on $100,000.
we're not the gatekeepers.
Exactly.
Tom made a motion to adjourn.
Please.
Second.
I think, I'll take that please as a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Enjoy Mexico, Joe.
Thank you. Bye.
Also recording before you do.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.